Welcome to the Stay Paid Podcast, where we help agents and entrepreneurs master the latest business trends to unlock growth and create a life of freedom. Brought to you by Reminder Media.
Welcome to Stay Paid. I'm Joshua Stike.
And I'm Luke Akery.
And before we bring on our guest today, we'd love it if you take a minute to subscribe to Stay Paid on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. While you're there, drop us a review.
Please, we need these reviews, people.
Keep the reviews.
I'm begging you guys every single time.
That open alone is worth somebody smushing a button. You guys are good at this, man. That was fire.
Finally. I'm not even done yet.
Jeez,
you know what? The
bad.
place we get complimented the most on this podcast is your intro.
It's all that
I don't know
do.
what that says about the podcast, honestly.
I do an intro. I sit here for 25 minutes and I do the outro.
Well, your intro game is fire, so keep going. Keep going.
Joining us today, as always, is Stephen Akery of the Akery Brothers Realty Team, the #1 team in Lynchburg, Virginia. Welcome, Stephen.
What's up, boys?
And our special guests here today, James Dwiggins and Keith Robinson, co-CEOs of NextHome, Inc., a nationally recognized forward-thinking real estate franchise transforming how agents serve their clients and grow their businesses. Together, they co-host the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast, where they tackle the biggest issues and trends in the industry with insight and, as what we found leading up before that we started
They're
recording,
very unfiltered.
Humor, yeah.
Yeah, very unfiltered.
Gentlemen, welcome to Stay Paid.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thanks for having us. Great,
man.
great intro and read, man. I like it.
We're just
like
going
it.
to apologize in
ChatGPT.
advance to
Yeah,
your viewers
your
and
audience.
listeners. Like, you guys are getting us at the end of a work week. I don't know what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
Though they said we're getting them at the end of a work week, but it's only 3:00 there. What do you guys not
first of
actually
all,
work every day? Or
For
not?
context, audience, it's April 4th. So if you've been paying attention the last 48 hours, it's been a rough 48 hours in the stock market. So yeah, I'm hanging up the cleats a little early this Friday.
Yeah, let's just say you pour some bourbon for yourself or something like that.
Whatever makes your pain go away.
Well, we're going to get into the forward thinking, right? Because I want to hear what you guys think about what's going on in the market and what agents should be doing. But I got to start out with the main question on my mind. I read on the website you guys are co-CEOs, and I just got to ask, how the heck do you manage the business as co-CEOs? Like, how do you guys fight it out? I just want to know.
We fist fight. That's the thing. It's written.
I
in
thought
the
it was
agreement.
mud wrestling or something like that. I was like,
yeah. Well, James, you want to take this one or you want me to?
I mean, the funny part is we actually used to box together, and we're very different shapes. I'm very, very tall and half anorexic, and Keith is not that. And so
I'm built for comfort.
I have been in the ring with Keith many times, and it does not end the way that I want it to.
Also true.
I've got a concussion once from him. So I do not have that in the contract. That is not how we do things, because he'll get his way every time.
I think it was karma, because I've made fun of companies that have co-CEOs.
Are
and
you
now
serious?
I am one.
That's true.
Yeah. It was sort of a natural evolution, to be honest. James has started doing, over the last 24 months, a lot of industry-facing stuff, sort of being the standard bearer into the industry for our brand NextHome and for the industry in general. And as he was doing that, it meant he was on the road more, bunch of flights, attending all the events, going to all the NAR stuff, and just really being an advocate for the industry. And that meant someone needed to stay home and sort of tend the home fires and make sure business as usual back at the ranch was getting done. And so we've been doing it this way really for almost 2 years. It just sort of made sense to, so I handle sort of day-to-day operations. James handles being the face of the company and helping the industry with the direction and voice that it needs.
Yeah, and
I love it. I'm just imagining Dwight Schrute and Jim from The Office.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Basically, it's that. Yeah,
well, so
that.
but going a little deeper, and then we'll move on from the topic. Keith and I have known each other really, really long time. We actually met in 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. Yeah. And it was during the Great Recession. We were in a room filled with a bunch of industry executives in California, and everybody was running around the room talking about how great the market was. And then, we're not shy. And I was like, the hell are all you talking about? Shit is awful. Like, the whole market's crashed. We've got people that can't afford their houses. We've laid off staff. We've lost 200 real estate offices. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you guys are all smoking, but that ain't how the world is. And Keith's like, it was like, we looked up, and it was like the movie Step Brothers. We're like, are we going to be best friends?
Pretty much.
And then we left the meeting and went to a bar.
So first break was at 10:15. We both leave and we go to the bar. We didn't start drinking right away, but we got coffee, I think. We didn't leave that table. I mean, we had 2 meals at that table. We had lunch at that table. We had dinner at that table.
Dude, that's fantastic.
We never
man.
made it back in the room, and we just
That's
shared
awesome.
with each other what we were struggling with, what was going wrong. So that's how our friendship was sort of forged.
It's all been this way for a long time is the point.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's a true love story in the making. I love you guys. I love your personalities. It's freaking sick. I actually just wanted to open with that question because I did wonder, because I've actually seen that in other people. And I was like, I wonder, but here's my ultimate thought process is titles don't really mean anything. Like titles are irrelevant. It's really about the, the activities that you do and the giftings and stuff that you bring to the table. I'm curious, the market obviously is in shambles right now. The stock market is literally cut in half. It feels
Don't know
like.
what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're already drunk. You're just like, I can't even think about it. So that has not only happened, but you have all the shifting that has happened within the real estate market in particular. You have all the changes in the commission stuff that went down. You have a lot of what I'm calling like mergers and acquisitions happening, right? You got some huge brands, and you got like Keller Williams taking capital. You've got just a ton of different stuff, and it feels like, and then let alone we've been mentioning 71% of agents haven't done a deal, if that stat's true.
Yeah.
So there's just a ton of turmoil, and it feels like half of the industry is in sheer panic, and the other half is still feeling good. What are you telling agents at NextHome right now?
James, you want to go first?
No, you go first. Yeah, you take this one.
So the message that we've really been communicating for months now is 2025 is the year of stay ready, because there's going to be windows, there's going to be pockets where, and it's an oversimplification, I know, to say, you tell me where the rates are, I'll tell you how the real estate market is. But right now in this specific cycle, I think we're as rate dependent as an industry. We always have to focus on rates, but we're as rate dependent as an industry as we've been in a long, long time, maybe ever. And we experienced it in 2024. There was a 90-day period where rates bounced between 6 and 6.5%. They hit 6.5, kept trending down. For about 30 days, buyers and sellers started to come back into the marketplace. Then it takes about 30 days for them to find the house or get an accepted offer. And then it takes about 30 days to close. But we had a 2.5 month period there where the market was pretty robust and people were coming back into the marketplace. So we have some recent data that tells us that when rates are between 6 and 6.5, buyers and sellers come back into the marketplace. So jot that down, mark that. Okay. So this year at some point, we've made strides in that direction in the last 48 hours. This year at some point, rates are going to go back to bouncing between 6 and 6.5%. Might do it for 3 months, might do it for 6 months, might do it for 12 months. But if it only does it for 3 months again, like it did last year, the agents who are paying attention, the agents who stay ready so they don't have to get ready, the agents who can take action, per your sign right over your shoulders there, the agents who can take action are going to get their unfair share. And so while I hope rates come down, I did not hope for the volatility in the stock market to create that downward rate pressure, but here we are. But as rates come down, the agents who aren't going to be distracted by all of the tariff talk, aren't going to be distracted by the horrible news on Bloomberg, aren't going to be looking at their 401k and lamenting it, not that they have a 401k, or their Roth IRA and feeling terrible. And the ones who realize that this is a moment where this could be the beginning of the time at which this is going to create a window where some of their clients can transact. And it is my personal mission to make sure none of the agents in our company miss that window. Yeah. And so I've been telling them about it for months. As soon as I think we're quote unquote there, I'll be screaming it from the mountaintop, sending emails, texts, phone calls, the whole 9 yards. Because at a minimum, there'll be windows, hopefully a longer, long protracted time. But at worst case, 60, 90, 120 day windows where you can make your year if you're ready. And so I call 2025 the year of stay ready.
That's good. Love that.
I mean, it's great. And the only thing I can add on top of that is there's 4 million transactions roughly that are happening regardless of how bad things are. We know people are going to move because of life changes, job changes, family, divorce, whatever it might be. There's too many agents in the business, but we already know, as your stats said, somewhere in that number, roughly 70% of them aren't doing any transactions. It's funny, of all these conversations we have when we interview people on our pod, we talk about AI, we talk about tech, we talk about stuff. And if you just focus on your damn sphere and just talk to people in your sphere and just Focus on that. You will get your unfair share. You don't need AI. You don't need all this stuff. Just pick up the damn phone and call people and have the conversation. I'm not saying don't do any of that. I'm just saying that basic fundamental will get you so that you're not only thriving in this market, but you're coming out the other side. And I'm not saying don't scale your business. You should be planning on how to scale as the market turns. You should have a lot of automation in place to help you with that. But there are just too many people that make excuses, and this is a contact sport. You got to pick up the phone, and if you call 10 people and not interested, call 10 more, and call 10 more after that, and just leave it at that, and you're going to be fine in this industry. But so many people come in thinking it's an easy business, and it's not. No. I love it. Keith and I always just all the time like, oh, I want to get into real estate because I want to have my own hours. Hours? Yeah. What are you talking about? There's no hours.
24/7. Yeah. Oh man, get a tight shot on Steven's face when he said, "I want to work my own hours."
Yeah.
Steven had a physical reaction.
Yeah. 120 hours a week
with our new agents. It's crazy. Yeah. Every single time they come in, they're like, we want flexibility with our schedule and everything. It's like, dude, the consumer decides your schedule.
Yeah.
Just wait. It's
flexible. You never know when you'll be working. So it's flexible. Yeah.
Makes
sense,
so true. It is the sphere. All the data points to it. Every coach, every thought leader will say, call your sphere. And agents still don't do it. So we have to break it down and go, okay, why?
Oh, I have a concept for why.
Yeah, that's what I want to pick your brain on. It's like, why aren't they doing it? What are the blockers?
Okay, so now all the views being expressed for either Keith Robinson, no one on the Stay Paid podcast, or anyone else.
Disclaimer.
Yeah. So what I believe it takes to be a really good real estate professional is a very high emotional IQ. So you have to know in the moment what this person across from you needs. Sometimes they need to be picked up. Sometimes they need to be calmed down. Sometimes they need to be told it's going to be okay. Sometimes they need to be told it's not going to be okay. And really, really talented real estate agents are able to thin slice that quickly in the moment and understand what this other human being needs and provide it for them in the moment. So good agents, mostly in my experience, have really high emotional IQs. The downside of a really high emotional IQ is you're more rejection avoidant than the average bear because your high emotional IQ means you're attuned to people's reactions. And when people's reactions are negative towards you, you feel like you take it more personal, more deeply than someone with a lower emotional intelligence who's sort of going through life thinking everybody loves them, right? So that's one component.
Point. Yeah.
Then the other component is they are the business. So look, Nikes run narrow and I don't. Okay. So I don't like Nikes. So when I go to look at a pair of shoes, I might default to Nike because if I said name an athletic shoe, the whole audience, anybody listening says Nike, not Adidas, but I wear Adidas because they run wider. So but still will go, not that anyone goes to shoe stores anymore, but if I did, I'd probably look at some Nikes and then try to find Adidas that were like those because Nike owns a piece of my brain. Right. But Phil Knight or whoever owns most of Nike stock, he doesn't care that I buy Adidas. It doesn't change his world one iota. I don't walk up to him and be like, Phil, you suck. I'm going with this German company. Right. He doesn't have that experience because he isn't the brand. He cares about the brand a lot. He's passionate about the brand. He's involved. But when someone says no to a real estate agent, they say no to that agent with the face on the sign and the business card, which that's a great point, anyway, right? So the combination of the really high emotional IQ, which makes you more emotionally sensitive, and the fact that you're the brand basically just means they're over indexed for rejection avoidance. And it's hard because rejection avoidance is pushing through that is part of the key to success, like we've all been talking about. So that's what I think the psychology is. And sometimes just by saying it helps people identify it. And then acknowledging it and telling them, I know, but you got to do it anyway. That's the job. Right. And so that's where I see people having compelling reasons to call. Right. Like I know so many agents say, I would never door knock. I'm not going to door knock. Door knocking is so icky. But they will door knock next door on both sides of an open house just to politely tell them, hi, hey, Luke, I'm Keith Robinson. I'm doing the open house next door today. I just wanted you to know, here's my card. Text me if anybody blocks your driveway or anything crazy, because we might have a nutty open house, right? Yeah. So agents are super willing to go do that door knock. They don't even think of that as a door knock, but they just gave their card to a total stranger. But if you told them to go door knocking, well, that's rejection. That triggers all the stuff. So I think you got to play some mental scaffolding games. to push through some of the natural indicators that make an agent more rejection avoidant than the average bear.
Yeah. And it's such a long timeline for getting actual gratification, right? I mean, you're looking at 6 months to 12 months to get a deal done. And so people, they'll follow up with their sphere, but they want to get something out of it instead of knowing that you're just not going to get anything out of it yet. You know, you got to follow up.
Yeah. Yeah. Real estate agents are bad pleasure delayers. There's your hook. Producer, mark that.
Dude, there's a lot of clips in this already.
That is borderline.
Yeah, yeah.
Roll with it.
I think you are onto something of the reason to call. Mm-hmm. And if people would think through the framework of their outreach, through the framework of what is my reason to call. And, you know, I think it's Ricky Carruth who is, you know, champion from the rooftops, you know, this idea of, you know, you're just calling for a relationship, essentially, you know, and that is the key. So then the question becomes, well, what are the good reasons to call? One of the reasons why our magazine obviously took off for us is because it just gave agents a reason to call. Like I would joke with
the recipe.
I would joke with people on the phone when I'm signing them up. I'd be like, Keith, I mean, let's be real, man. You really don't need the magazine. You could probably call behind sending them an apple.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's still kind of awkward. The magazine makes you look good. It gives you a nice reason to call. It's really easy. You're going to see it. Just try it one time. And the good agents, they get that. They're like, yeah, you're right. I really don't even need your magazine, but it's nice. It's an extra benefit. It's like, yeah, it's just a reason to call. That's all it is it just gives you that reason to have a convo with the consumer that's natural.
It all boils down to overcoming your own fear.
Yep.
The end.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of, I think about in companies I've raised capital for, you think about how many companies don't succeed, and it's because they get rejection from venture funds, which is the ultimate thing to try and get money from, by the way, is the hardest thing possible. And you get, you know, after 50 people telling you that your idea sucks and they're not going to fund it, you cave. But that's the point you actually have to push through. You have to keep going because eventually someone in the next 50 to 100 will say yes. Mm-hmm. And 99% of people can't get past their own fear of rejection. And that's not even that's just people in general. And the good agents that I've met are the ones who are confident in themselves that they can get rejection and they don't let it affect them. They just move on and they just go, well, there's another 4,000 people I need to get on the phone with. One of those people is going to finally say yes. Even if I have to call them 50 times, they'll eventually say yes. So it's just, that's, by the way, that's everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody wants rejection.
What's that old line about being an entrepreneur is moving from failure to failure with the same enthusiasm that you did the first time? Yeah. Something like that, right?
Isn't that like Winston Churchill? Or
might be. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm going to Google that.
Let's just say it's him and see what it does.
I get hit in the head for fun, so I have no idea. But
I mean, was it 99% of quotes are made up on the spot or whatever?
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, to me, it makes sense, right? Like, and even, you know, sometimes you get so busy as an agent, you may try to shortcut the service, right? Or you just aren't as focused or attentive, and that's a mistake too, right? So you've got to just push everything else to the side and focus on the human being in that moment and be fully present for them, regardless of the outcome. And then you got to do it again, to James's point. You got to do it again and again and again and again and again.
So I'm curious, like, and this is a little bit maybe down a different vein of this, but agents, like, I see this huge problem in the industry of there's, you know, so many leads, but agents don't follow up with them. So in essence, they go to realtor.com and they request info, and then they go to Zillow, and then they come through this channel and that channel. And that's why there's millions and millions of more leads out there than there are actual transactions.
Yes.
Because people are not actually nurturing and following up. So I always thought to myself, well, why doesn't the real estate business, like, why doesn't NextHome build out the sales team, kind of like Reminder Media has 100+ people on the phone that all they do is call leads, right? And they onboard people, and then they pass it to an account manager where all they do is empathize and nurture and coach, right? And then we have a retention team, and all they do is, oh, you want to cancel? Well, you go to this team now because they are specialized in this. It's almost like that conveyor belt in a way. Why doesn't the real estate industry try to start building that model? And it's like, I felt like Redfin was kind of trying to prove that, but they failed. And I hate to say failed, but, you know, it's they did. Like, he didn't accomplish what he wanted to do. And I mean, you can't say you failed when you sold for 1 point whatever billion, but you know,
you can if you put 2 billion in. But
yeah,
anyway,
but I mean, he wasn't able to pull it off.
Right.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that the real estate model requires the 1099 entrepreneur, and you can't like systematize, or do you believe it's headed that way?
You want me to start, Keith?
Yeah, you go first.
So this is a complex answer. Number one is that this business is far more complex and expensive than I think most people realize. And I'll give you this example. I could put a room of 100 top agents together, and I could ask them to tell me how much time they spend working with a client from the moment they meet them to the moment that they close a transaction. How many hours did you spend with them? What were your operational costs? What were your expenditures? Like, what did it actually cost you to work for that particular client? And they will have no idea, because they have no idea how much work they're actually doing with the client. Perfect example. You go show a client a property. The client says, I want to go view this home. You're like, great, we're going to set it up. So you go online and you go to throw showing time and set it up. Or maybe you call the listing agent, you set it up, you have a conversation, you get in the car, you drive to the appointment, you're at the appointment, you do the showing, you spend 30 minutes there, you go back to the driveway, you have another conversation. They're like, great, I want to know more about it. Great. You go back to the office, call the listing agent, get a copy of the disclosure package, read the disclosure package, tell the client everything you had about it. And they go, yeah, I don't really care. Great. Wash, rinse, repeat now 12 to 15 times. And before you know it, you're in this massive complex piece. So to answer your question, one of the problems with hourly and what Redfin figured out early on and later, which is why their model shifted from doing menus and what you can and can't do, used to be full service, then it kind of shrunk down. When you bill hourly, the client will pay more money.
Yeah.
That's a fact. So especially on the buy side, because that's where all the work is. You can put buyer's agents in a room and I'll ask them, hey, how many of you think it's more work to work with a buyer than a seller? And we'll be like, yeah, of course it is, because you're doing all this stuff, right? So you look at that. From the W-2 based model, you've got, obviously now they're an employee. You're going to do health insurance. You've got benefits. You've got taxes. You've got Social Security. You have all these expenses that wrap up into a deal that you don't know where it's going to close or how long it actually takes. That model has not been proven because I don't know how it works in the current structure of today. So let's just tack that over there for a second. From the real estate broker's perspective, we've been in a declining brokerage split model forever. And I just say it, it's a race to the bottom, where you have agents that are receiving a majority of the split. Brokerage is taking on all the liability, and you can't margin that without increasing the split. Like the agent has to give up more for you to staff frontline, follow up after.
Agree. Yeah.
So it's from a company standpoint, I go back to, and I'll let Keith dive in because he's actually really versed in this, Weichert Lead Network. These guys were the originators of so ISAs and everything else, started in Weichert Realtors. And they had an entire division. Like, they did it better than anyone. And this is, I'm going to go back, what, Keith, this is like 15 years ago, 20 years ago now?
Yeah, at least 15.
Yeah. So, but you had to charge 40 to 50% referral fees because somebody has to pay for the ISAs.
Yeah, and the Legion. Yeah.
So what's ironic about it today is that they had a hard time getting their top producers to take those leads because they were like, I don't want to pay 40 to 50%. I'm not going to do any of that. And so the Weichert Lead Network is still there, but it's not something people talk about as much. It's not nearly what it is today. The irony of it is now you've got Zillow and you've got Realtor and who are charging 40%, which will end up being 50% referral fees, and all these top producing teams that are handling all of this stuff. And we're right back to where we were. And they still complain about the fact it's a 40 to 50% referral fee. So
do you think it's the technology that's going to make it so Zillow, it will ultimately work for them? Or
well, I want to add a component here too, though, first, right? So you got to remember, let's just use the listing side just for example. We can use the buy side too, but 80% of humans who are going to list their home call one real estate agent.
Yeah.
81%.
Yeah.
So that means my dad's a mathematical physicist. I am not, but that leaves 19%, right? That call more than one. Well, that means 81% of the people who filled out those online forms are searching somewhere else, right? Or whatever the buy side is, are searching somewhere else, but probably going to search on wherever, but call my agent. Right?
Yeah,
Happens
exactly.
all the time. So some percentage of those leads have no interest. They actually don't want to talk to a real estate agent. They just have to fill out this form
And
to
Keith,
get.
just to add, because I think I just want to pin this.
Yeah.
The stat I saw in 2021 was there was 81 million leads distributed across the portals.
Yeah.
And I believe it was 6.1 million units were sold.
Yeah.
In 2021. I just want to add context.
Yeah,
right.
1 million inquiries.
Yeah,
6.1.
just insane.
Just to add to your point. So
yeah, so a vast majority of those leads that are coming through aren't really leads, right? I mean, sorry, portal buddies, but they're not, right? So they're 81% are going to call one person and go work with them. So you really have all of those people are battling it out for the 19% who really don't have someone who jumps to the forefront of their mind. And you've got to sift through all that noise to get to that 19%. Well, that's a lot of work. And things that are a lot of work, most people won't consistently, persistently do, right?
Yeah, and it's
so
costly.
It's not the lead flow, to James's point, is not as high as you think. And so the TAM, total addressable market, isn't as big as you think. Then it's even smaller than that because some percentage of those people already have an agent. They're just like searching on your site. And then so whatever's after all that, right? And so you think you got 1,000 leads, but you might have 100 that you're actually working, but you still have to follow up with all 1,000 because they don't raise their hand to tell you, yeah, I'm just here playing mess around. I'm going to go work with Steven. So that's where I think the devaluing of the online leads, to Steven's point, real estate agents aren't good at doing something for a long time without getting a result. So no human being is. And so if you get these leads and 81% of them aren't going to work with you no matter what you do, or some percentage of them aren't going to work with you no matter what you do, and then you've got to sift through them all, you're like, forget this. The online leads suck, air quotes, right? Well, they don't. They're just either not really looking to work with you, and you got to figure that out, or they're very early in the process. That's the other problem. Average time from when someone fills out an online lead form until they transact is 18 months. So that means some are doing it in 1 month and some are doing it in 3 years. So you've got a long cycle where you're going to have to manage this large batch of leads with relentless enthusiasm. And if you do that, some stuff will fall out of the bottom. But usually people will buy leads. They do it for 4 months. I haven't sold anything yet. Well, right. The average time is 18 months. That means you got to do this for a year before you should expect any result at all. Like many good things, just like geographical farming and many other good things in residential real estate. So it's sort of just set up to, you have an industry that's used to working late stage, late funnel lead acquisition, right? If someone's sacrificing their Sunday to go to an open house, they're late. They're way down the funnel. They're close to transacting. If someone is like calling you to say, my buddy James said you were a great real estate agent, well, they're really far down the funnel. That's what the industry is used to. Everything online is top of funnel. And then what is coming through the funnel isn't fully addressable, and it takes a long time. Well, you put all that in the gumbo and people are going to say, insightful things like online leads suck. They don't suck.
So well said.
You just got to manage them the right way.
Yeah, that's so well said. Yeah, I've always seen it as the issue is that it's a relationship-based business. Mm-hmm. And the people who build the relationship are the salesmen, and salespeople are notoriously difficult to manage in every single industry. Yeah. My salespeople don't believe they get a good enough split. My salespeople feel they're the reason why this company exists. Like it doesn't matter. I'm in marketing and it's the same problem, right? That, you guys experience in real estate. And so I just go, the problem in it is it's a relationship-based business, so you have to have the salesman. The salesman believes they have the leverage. They're not going to want to work for you, so it doesn't scale. So your go-to-market strategy falls apart because you're not owning it at the regional, and your value prop is not big enough from corporate down. So it's like, oh, shoot. That's why you can't have the employee, because he doesn't want to be an employee anymore because he's the talent. So he's just going to steal that market and run.
Yeah, right. And it's even more exacerbated on the residential real estate side, because when an agent leaves, most of their clients go with them. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's just a natural movement. When one of your salespeople leaves, they're still interested. The agent is still interested in your product. They just got a new salesperson, right? So it's even additionally amplified if you own a brokerage and are trying to operate it.
So how do we stop the race to the bottom? Like, what's you guys' thought process on like?
Yeah, that's my question too. Like, what's going to happen to these brokerages? Because like I look across the board, I talk to a bunch of even the top brokerages in the area, and none of them are making money. Like we're talking, we're talking $50,000 profits, running 120 agents, at their brokerage, and you just go, why would you do this? You know what I mean? Why would we be in business with this profit margin? And so I'm just curious, but they can't do anything because the agents are coming back with splits all the time and holding no liability. So it's interesting.
Who's going first, James? You or me?
I'll take this one. You can jump in on it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, go.
So it's a question we ask often. But it's
the question of why are we doing this? Or no,
no, literally, yes. I thought that was the question.
That's
sorry.
why I laughed.
Yeah. Look, I mean, here's the deal, right? The tail's been wagging the dog for a long time now. And until things shift so that people understand the value of brokerage, and I think brokerages have to do a better job, by the way, at the same time. But this really does come down to some basic fundamentals. Licensing, what it takes to be a real estate agent is part of the issue. That is a state level issue that varies by state. I'm doing a keynote at Arello, which is the Association for Real Estate. Basically, it's all the licensing authorities for each state in a couple weeks. And, there needs to be, and I'm not a big government guy, just so people don't freak out, but there needs to be stronger regulation on how things are done. Yeah, whatever. I'll just give them Keith at nexthome.com. So
you've been waiting. Been waiting.
There needs to be much tougher licensing laws. And then there needs to be more accountability. There needs to be, I'll give you an example of this. Why in the hell are we having a conversation about days on market as an industry? No. Literally ask yourself this question. Why are we having a conversation about days on market? It's the stupidest question ever that you're actually having a conversation. Days on market begins when you have an active listing agreement and you are willing to accept an offer. It's not, the house isn't being staged, but we're at a place where someone can come in and make an offer on it. And so now we're talking about days on MLS, days on market, what is with demo, what is it not? It's these things need to be taken care of at a state level where the licensing authority is making those decisions. Secondarily, there needs to be accountability for when people do things wrong. Licenses need to be thrown out. People need to have consequences for that. And, there's just too many people. I think when you shrink this down to a more professional business, you'll find that this becomes a much more respectful industry. Brokers are taking on the risk of liability. Errors and omissions policies are through the broker. All of these things happen at the brokerage level. So I think it starts there. And, it's if we're going to do this game where there's business models where agents can be all over the entire country for that matter, and have zero oversight, then what you're going to get is this continued erosion of value proposition. Keith, you want to jump in on that?
I think that would help the perception from the consumer standpoint too. So you go into these appointments and you have sellers or people that are going to list their property looking at you, talking to you as if you're a non-professional because there's so many non-professional agents out there. And so we just have such a poor reputation. And so it's just an interesting thing with the licensing. And I think if it was much more difficult to get into the real estate industry, I think the consumer side, consumer facing, they would look at our industry as, better.
You need more hours to be a barber than you do.
Yeah, there's 1,000 hours of
to cut
training,
people's hair. You need
hair.
More hours of training to cut people's hair and get a license to cut people's hair. At least
I agree with
places.
Everything you're all saying, but podcasts aren't fun when everybody agrees. So
yeah, seriously, disagree.
Just to take the other side. Well, Stephen, I agree. There's many reports out there. You look at the ranking of professionalism of industries, and real estate agent ranks very low, right? It ranks very low. That's an accurate statement. And you also go look, a vast majority of people who transacted loved their real estate agent and would love to use them again. So how do you balance those two things, right? I don't think the perception of the industry is one thing. The individual who works with an agent, their perception of that individual is very, very different.
That's true.
So the reason that it doesn't get seen as professional is because that independent nature. They don't call people back, you know, all of those other components. But when they do pick their person, they absolutely love them and have a great experience with them. And a vast majority say they would use them again. So while I like, you know, we can get on podcasts and talk about how, you know, real estate, we need to, and the other thing that pisses me off is how many podcasts have been done where, or, you know, people stand up on stages and say, we need more professionalism. It should be a college degree. It should be this, it should be that. And then you're like, okay, cool. Does that mean everyone without a college degree has got to get out of the industry until they get one? Well, no, I didn't mean me. I didn't mean I needed that. I meant all the new people. Well, get the I almost said a bad word. Get out of here. Like, do you want to be part of the change or not? Or you just want to talk about it? Like it's all this not in my backyard. It's not me. It's these new people getting in the business. Stop. Like we don't have to wait. We can control this industry. Steven, you own a brokerage. You probably only hire professional agents. Every once in a while, one slips through, and then you take care of that one. I don't mean you like put a bullet in their head.
Yeah,
but
you do, Steve. Yeah, only professionals.
Well, right, but I mean, he probably has a more professional brokerage.
Real bad.
Yeah, well, okay, then
That's
fix
the
your
43
office
on his
then,
arm.
Yeah,
the
stop
43
calling-
is the number of agents he got rid of right there on his arm.
Yeah.
Stop throwing stones at glass houses. No,
I just mean like we don't like everyone wants to. And
agree, dude. I agree.
This is not shots at Steven. This is shots at us.
No. Please take all the shots. No,
That's why we brought him on.
He's the biggest
My
one
younger
on
brother.
here. Yeah,
Right.
no, I'm not coming for him. He's got far too many muscles.
Yeah.
But if we want to fix the industry, let's just fix it in our offices. Like, I don't want to wait for NAR to come up with some bullshit that I have to follow. Like, no, you want a more professional industry? Start with your office. And if we all do that, we'll have a more professional industry.
Yeah.
The other thing I think too around this is the question around broker profitability. There's a couple things going on here. One is recency bias. Okay. So it's been a terrible 3 years in residential real estate.
Yeah.
We were talking, I think it was in the green room. We're doing fewer transactions now than we did in 2008. Like, just let that sink in. Just let that sink in. We're doing fewer annualized transactions now than we did in 2008. And most people, when they think about 2008, think of it as the worst real estate market ever. This one from a unit count is worse. We have 3 years of that. So yeah, profitability's probably been impacted, right? And so if you look at something at the bottom, you're going to see worse numbers. So recency bias, I think, is in there a little bit. And then this is just my opinion, but you've either got to be really high service, and I mean really high service, where you're kind of taking care of everything, right? A lot of things. You got a marketing department, and you got a lot of stuff going. You got that call center, all that stuff you talked about, right? If you have really high service, there are models out there who have recruited agents, and a bunch of them, who will take a lower split if the service that you provide them is really there. And you take stuff off their plate to free them up to be just great real estate agents and go do what they're best in the world at. So while I agree, agents, sometimes we call them greedy. That's wrong too. They should go get as much as they can. I believe it. Like, trust me, when James and I were negotiating the co-CEO thing, like, I'm getting paid. I stay paid, right? Agents should stay paid too, right? So
I'm in an apartment.
That's the
now.
clip of the.
So like, why are we mad that agents are holding us accountable? They should be, right? So either offer great stuff and charge them for it, or you've either got to be high touch, high service, high charge, or low touch, high volume, low margin, right? I got a lot of agents. I charge them a little bit, but I'm doing the high volume, low margin. And most brokerages are stuck in the middle. They've picked a few things to provide as a service, but they're not really like low touch, low service. And they're definitely not high touch, full service. And so they end up in Death Valley. And they can't compete with the low touch, low service ones, and they can't compete with the high touch, high service ones. And then they just say agents suck and they're greedy.
Yeah.
No,
but I think that's where most brokerages are. They're
right. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like,
in the middle.
It's like, how do
you've got to make you got to make a conscious decision on what am I, and then tell the world that that's what you are. And then go attract the people that are looking for that, and stop trying to be everything to everybody, because then you end up somewhere in the middle, and in the middle between those two sucks, and you don't make much money, and it's expensive, and it's a problem.
And the other thing is, with where we're headed as an industry, I'd just be clear, I don't think you put the genie back in the bottle, by the way. I think this is where things are at this point.
To what are you referring?
This sort of race to the bottom. I don't think you can change it at this point. And I think that the other part that you have to look at is brokers are going to have to figure out how to get into ancillary revenue streams quickly.
Yep.
That's going to be the cat. We all saw, Rocket's, projections of the average transaction cost being 40,000. They want to get it to 20. Well, that going to be the realtor commission as the discounter and making it up on all the attach rates on ancillary services. So, Zillow's been pushing there. Rocket's there. ICE is trying to come around the other side of that. The industry is going to go through consolidation. There's too many brokerages, too many agents. And to Keith's comment, which I agree wholeheartedly, there's lots of room for people who provide a higher level of service because people will pay for that, especially when it's service and convenience. But rounding the margins out with additional services other than brokerage commission is going to be crucial in the future. Yeah,
I agree 100%. Man, guys, I feel like I could talk to you guys all day. We need a Joe Rogan podcast, man. 3 hours. We're already 40 minutes in. This is amazing. Awesome. We're gonna have to have you guys back. This is awesome.
Definitely.
Come
Keith,
back anytime.
James, thank you so much for joining us. Before we close out, let people know how they can connect with you guys. So,
Keith at nexthome.com is my email. No, just have them go check out our podcast. It's Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered. All of our information's there. Have them come check it out. It's a lot of fun. We do a lot of these conversations with, same as you guys, with other people too.
So love it.
We'll give you the link so you can put it in the show notes. But yeah, that's the best place to find us is probably through our podcast.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Steven, thank you.
Yep. Thank
Anything
you guys.
you got?
Where can they find you, Steve?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You're adjusting your
I
headphones.
hit every podcast. So, but shoot me a call, shoot me a text, follow us on Instagram, Stephen at Akery Brothers, and then phone numbers 434-216-5306.
Love it. Thank you all so much for listening. You can get the links that we mentioned as well as the video and the show notes of all of our podcasts over at estatepaidpodcast.com. And if you like this episode, do us a favor. Go to the YouTube channel, hit subscribe, hit a thumbs up on this video. We greatly appreciate it.
Subscribe.
If you want to get hold of, listen to Keith.
It's the subconscious. Just
if you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram. We're at State Paid Podcast. For this episode of State Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, I'm Luke Akery. James, Keith, man, you guys are amazing. I've loved getting to know you and your agents, your team there. You guys have been fantastic. My action item for everybody listening to this is, if you remember what Keith said, stay ready. What does that mean, right? When the interest rates drop, which they're dropping right now, so when this releases, I'm not sure where they'll be, but it is time to reach out to your sphere. And then if you apply the action item that James gave you, pick up the phone and call the people in your database. That's it. Stay ready. Watch the rates. They drop. There's going to be buyers that need to buy. There's going to be people who need to sell, but they need to be convinced. And the reason why I know this to be true is because I'm talking to agents all around the nation, and one of the lead sources that normally doesn't close extremely well is popping, which is circle prospecting. And you know why that is? It's because people need a reason. They want to sell, but they just need a reason. There are people in your sphere. You don't even have to circle prospect. You can call the people in your sphere that already know, like, and trust you, and just talk to them about where they're at with their home equity, what their dreams are. Are they in their dream home? Because remember this difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.